back for another day of the 28 days of Black American History Month. This is day, let me check. I think it's 24. It's 23. Day 23 of the 28 days of Black American History Month. So I had the intention to do a particular video tonight, but I last minute, just not for any reason other than like it just works out better for me to do it tomorrow, based on my plans. Like I said, I keep running across like all of this like random information and like these random discoveries, and it's befitting for the video, so I'm just gonna do that portion of it tomorrow. But what I'm going to do tonight is actually in connection to it, and I was actually going to connect this portion to, I guess, the presentation that I was going to do tonight. But keep in mind for tomorrow that this is connected to everything that we'll be discussing tomorrow. And basically what I wanted to discuss tonight was the land, America, the land, the ownership of the land, our, fire alarm was going off, child. We'll talk through it. The ownership of the land. See, you know, the alarms start going off when you start talking that real. Basically, the ownership of the land. A lot of people don't know. After slavery, we owned like over 100 towns. We owned a lot of land. You know, and just based on like, you know, our oppression and people like forcing us out of our towns and things, forcing us to sell, burning down our towns, all sorts of like different, you know, things happening. We kind of didn't or couldn't, you know, keep the land. You know, again with the whole, you know, I guess the idea of what I was talking about yesterday in terms of like shutting us out, like even that coming into play, like making it so that we can't afford to keep, you know, the land. So like so many different dynamics, but we did own land at one point. And I want to talk about it because, you know, part of this whole reparations conversation has been like, we want land. We want, you know, our reservations. We want our specified portions of the land. I know a lot of people talk about like the South, other parts of the U.S., but that's something that we definitely need to be keeping in mind as we're having these conversations and as we're exploring what reparations could look like. Of course, it would be a check. It would be multiple checks. Like it would be generational reparations in terms of just like the financing of the financial aspect of the portion of reparations, but like, you know, land, education, you know, hell, us not paying taxes, a slew of different ideas have been sort of circulating for a while now, and the land has definitely been a part of that conversation, but I definitely wanted to explore just the parts of the land that we actually owned. And just as I was doing research for the video that I intended to do tonight that I'm actually doing tomorrow, I actually realized in the Black Book they covered this, and they covered some of the information that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, but they covered a slew of different like places in the U.S. that we owned at one point. So I wanted to dive in. I wanted to definitely read up on that a little bit. And I'll just start, y'all. Yeah. So, land-rich blacks of the colonial days. It's interesting to speculate on whether the attitude towards blacks in New York would be different had Dutch colonial blacks held on to their land boundaries for several generations. The first 11 blacks brought to Manhattan to serve to Dutch West Indies Company were Paul de Angola, Big Manuel, Little Manuel, Anthony Portuguese, Manuel de Garrett de Gens, Simon Congo Garcia, John Francisco, Peter Santami, Little Anthony, and John Fort Orange. In 1644, they presented a petition asking to be released from service. The petition was granted, and each was given a large land grant by the Dutch. Big Manuel and Angola were given a large chunk of what is now Greenwich Village. Not only did Peter Santami get land for himself, but his son Solomon also obtained 30 acres of land, on part of which now stands the Flatiron Building at 5th Avenue and 23rd Street. Folks from New York, what's up? Solomon holdings were further increased by his marriage to one of the land-rich D'Angola girls. Solomon's will in the New York Surrogate's Court shows that he possessed land, houses, guns, silverware, and other material things denoting wealth in those days. It must be remembered, however, that land in Manhattan increased in value only as the population was swelled by immigration. In Dutch colonial days, land beyond Wall Street was considered the wilds, and much of it was swampy. A member of the Society of California Pioneers, Alvin Coffey, came to the gold mines in California in 1849 as a slave. In the day he panned for gold, and in the evening he cobbled shoes for the miners. All the money he earned was confiscated by his master, who then decided to take him back to Missouri. When they arrived in Missouri, Coffey was sold to a new master. After describing his experiences in California to his new owner, he persuaded the man to permit him to return to California. The agreement was that the slave would mail back an amount agreed upon by both master and servant. Back in the California goldfields, Coffey made and saved a sum sufficient to pay his master and buy the freedom of his family. With the money he earned at the mines, Coffey bought a farm and became a wealthy man. He was able to educate his children well, one son becoming an engineer. When he died in 1902, he was mourned by many friends. He is buried at the Oak Hill Cemetery in Red Bluff, California. In 1781, Los Angeles was founded by a strange mixture of Indians and Negroes. And this is a slew of different articles. So prior to that one, the other two, obviously, if you were following, those were two separate articles as well. And this is another one. With open heart surgery and heart transplants moving out of the experimental stage, it is timely to go back and review the first successful operation on the human heart. It was performed by Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, a colored surgeon, and some assistants at Providence Hospital in Chicago on July 10, 1893. Okay? James Cornish, a 24-year-old black expressman, had been stabbed, and the only way his life might be saved was through an operation to close a wound in his heart. Assisting Dr. Williams in the delicate operation were other surgeons attached to the hospital, which was founded by Dr. Williams so that black doctors and nurses could receive training and experience. The team consisted of Drs. Williams, George Hall, Howard Chislett, E.E. Barr, William Morgan, and William Fuller. The patient survived and responded well. On August 2, 1893, another operation was performed to remove fluid from the pleural space. On August 30th, 1893, Cornish walked out of the hospital and outlived Dr. Williams 2 years after the operation. Dr. Williams went to Chicago Stockyards just to see his former patient. Writing from the medical record in 1851, Dr. Williams wrote that after a diligent search of medical records, he learned that the operation on Cornish was not only the first successful operation on the human heart, but was also the first operation on that particular region of the human heart. Okay? So not only are you getting land history, you getting the history of us successfully creating the open heart surgery. Okay? And it's going into more history in terms of patents, which I'm curious, just give me 1 second. I'm curious if I'm going into the patent section of the book, because there actually is a patent section of this book. Okay, I think it's a mixture. think it's a mixture. Let's see. I think there might be like 2 more. Let me see. Yeah, so it's going into the patent section of the book, which, I mean, hey. But there was, yeah, there's several of the land that speaks specifically to the land. Let me see. See, it goes to the one Simius. They speak about one Simius, who we talked about earlier. Okay. Francisco Negro was incorporator of the village of Bushwick in Brooklyn. He owned land in Bushwick in 1633, 3 years earlier than any white man's acquisition of the land there. At Warren, Massachusetts in 1802, died a colored man named James Marks, aged 115 years. He claimed that in his youth Oh, okay. This doesn't have anything to do with the land, but we'll read it. He sailed as a pirate with Captain Kidd, and once saw Kidd cut off the head of a white boy who saw the pirate bury a treasure chest on Long Island. According to Okay, according to the Gazetteer and Guide, 1901, Volume 1, Number 1, free blacks in the U.S. from 1620 to 1830 owned real and personal property valued at $100 million. Wow. Let's see. I think we're going into like the patent section of it, but prison ship. Rest belonged. Yeah, I think, let's see, maybe I went too far ahead. Shit. Best game preserves. Okay. Yeah, I think I might have went a little further ahead than I intended to. Yeah, so this section of the book is actually a mixture of like patents and like the land. But I think I'll read this last part. I'm not sure if it seems like it would be going into what we're actually talking about, but we'll see. We got time. Okay. The Great Land Scheme. In the late 1800s, Garrett Smith, a wealthy white man, sold to city blacks at 25 cents an acre thousands of acres of land in upstate New York. Much of it was rocky and hilly, thus unsuitable for farming. Most of the blacks abandoned the land and returned to the city. George Downing, a shrewd businessman, bought their unrecorded deeds to the land, but died before he could consummate his plan to establish a claim to the vast acreage. Thomas Downing owned and operated a restaurant at the corner of Broad and Wall Streets for 46 years, from 1820 to 1866, when he died. In the Great Fire of January 1835, his quick wit saved the financial district from complete destruction. Water from the fire hoses froze, and Downing suggested use of his large storage of vinegar, which stayed the flames. In 1842, when Charles Dickens visited the U.S. former mayor, Hone gave a reception and paid Downing $2,200 for being in charge of the service for the occasion. Okay. I guess I'll show you guys his picture and read this little caption. Sounds weird. Let's see. Okay, so this is Mr. Thomas Downing, and it says, Thomas Downing, one of the pioneers of New York City, he at one time owned the property at number 3 Broad Street, now occupied by the Morgan Drexter Building, a structure valued at $3 million. Born in 1791, he knew intimately every New Yorker of prominence up to the days of the Civil War. It was he who saved James Gordon Bennett's New York Herald from going under by advancing a loan of $10,000 to Bennett. Wow. There you go. Let's see, y'all. Falling on the knees, class. Yeah, so it's a little scattered with the land. I think I pretty much covered it. Definitely get the book. Definitely get the book. I want to show you guys these pictures too. Give me 1 second. So this here is George Washington, founder of Centralia, Washington. Him and his dog on the porch, you know. Look at that. And this lady here, Miss Biddy Mason, early Los Angeles landowner. Remember this face, y'all. Oops, sorry, Miss Biddy. Remember her. Remember her. And I think that's going to be the video for tonight. Like I said, I just wanted to read. I have tons planned for tomorrow. Definitely tune in tomorrow. Like I said, it'll be a continuation of what we were talking about today. A lot of revelations, a lot of things that I stumbled across and discovered just reading. I'm really adamant about that land situation. And you know what's interesting? I remember last year reading an article where they were talking about this group of Black Americans who actually have, as of right now, literally are in the process of building their own city in Georgia. It's a Black American owned city that is, they bought acres and acres of land, a group of Black Americans, and they're building a city. Which I thought was amazing. We haven't seen that in a really long time. And the fact that it's actually happening, I thought it was a beautiful thing. A lot of people surprisingly don't know that that's actually happening, but it is happening. And I thought I mentioned it given the video. And, like I said, we definitely need to be discussing these things and I don't know, just having the conversation, it's worth the conversation and it's a necessary conversation. And it's something that I would like to see, imagine having the option, but even still, it's due as far as I'm concerned. And it only makes the most sense. So yeah, especially, it makes the most sense considering we built the country. How about that? But with that being said, I'm going to get out of here, y'all. Definitely tune in tomorrow. I'm looking forward to everything that I have planned, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.